Well, look at you, standing on the edge of a moment you didn't schedule, didn't predict, didn't even believe would come this violently. Something slid into place around your life. You felt it before you named it. That tightening in the atmosphere, that strange calm, that unspoken shift in the center of your chest. And you know what's unsettling about it? You didn't chase it. You didn't force it. You didn't beg for it. Something switched in your favor on its own, silently, ruthlessly, like destiny making a correction behind your back. No announcement, no warning, no flashing light. But you feel it. You feel the weight of it sitting on your shoulders differently. And soon, everyone else is going to feel it too. Because your next breakthrough, it isn't arriving politely. It's not slipping through the back door hoping no one notices. It's kicking through the front with a noise that makes haters choke on their own breath, loud enough to shut entire circles down, loud enough to drain the arrogance out of people who mistook your silence for surrender, loud enough to make people who once mocked your pace suddenly pretend they were never watching you at all. Let me tell you something raw. Breakthroughs like this don't come after convenient seasons. They come after nights you don't talk about, after storms you navigated while people slept comfortably under roofs you never had. After years of being treated like a footnote in stories you were the foundation of, something switched because something had to. Because the version of you that kept breaking quietly, healing quietly, rising quietly, finally reached a threshold. And thresholds don't whisper. They snap, they shift, they erupt. That's what you're feeling right now. This is not motivation. This is metamorphosis. Something in your life has stepped into a different gravitational pull. And every hater, every doubter, every whisperer is about to feel the tremor. You were never meant to rise in silence forever. There comes a moment in every chosen person's life when their growth becomes too large to hide, too heavy to minimize, too undeniable to swallow. That moment is here. And the loudness they're about to experience won't come from your mouth. It will come from your transformation. It will come from the way rooms shift when you walk in, the way conversations pause, the way certain people suddenly avoid eye contact because something in your energy exposes everything in theirs. Loudness isn't volume. Loudness is impact. Loudness is the kind of breakthrough that rearranges social dynamics without making a sound. Loudness is the kind of shift that forces the people who belittled you to become silent witnesses of your elevation. They're not ready. That's the truth they won't say out loud. They were prepared for your consistency, not your acceleration. They were prepared for your struggle, not your rising. They were prepared for you to stay predictable, contained, manageable. But something switched, and now the trajectory of your life has broken out of the frame they boxed you into. You don't belong to their assumptions anymore. You don't belong to their limitations. You don't belong to their outdated narratives. You have crossed into a version of yourself that their imagination cannot hold. Haters go quiet when fate stops obeying their opinions. When your breakthrough becomes undeniable, their voices collapse into whispers, not because they've changed, but because your blessing has outgrown their vocabulary. They don't know how to talk about someone who survived everything designed to break them. They don't know how to comment on someone who rose from ashes so silently that the resurrection feels supernatural. So they go quiet. Quiet not from peace but from panic. Quiet not from acceptance but from disbelief. Quiet because what's coming next for you is louder than their envy and stronger than their narratives. And here's what will disturb them most. They'll start realizing they never actually understood you. They understood your exhaustion, they understood your struggle, they understood your wounds, but they never understood your resilience. They never understood the way you regenerate. They never understood how someone breaks 100 times and still walks forward like nothing was taken. They never understood that the quiet you wasn't defeated, you were loading. And now that something has switched, that load is about to hit the world like a blast wave. You've been living beneath your own potential for so long that the rise will shock even you. You've dimmed yourself to make others comfortable, softened your edges to fit spaces never meant for your spirit. You taught yourself survival in climates that didn't want you alive. But breakthroughs, real breakthroughs, they don't honor the environments that oppressed you. They honor the truth you carried beneath the silence. They honor the vision you protected while pretending you had none. They honor the scars no one saw but you healed anyway. This breakthrough is loud because your suffering was quiet. This breakthrough is disruptive because your growth was hidden. This breakthrough is violent in its timing because your patience was weaponized against you. And now life is correcting the imbalance. No one warned them. Not because they weren't paying attention, but because they never believed a switch like this could exist inside someone like you. People assume the quiet ones stay quiet. People assume the humble ones stay small. People assume the broken ones stay low. But you're not in any of those categories anymore. Something in your internal wiring has been rewritten, rerouted, recharged. The same energy that once kept you timid is now fueling your momentum. The same silence they mistook for weakness is now the ground your breakthrough stands on. Your rise is going to expose people's insecurities without you saying a single word. Some will watch with trembling admiration, some with envy they try to hide but can't. Some with a numbness that comes from realizing they miscalculated you entirely. And some will go ghost, not because they're busy, but because your breakthrough forces them to confront the truth about themselves. Watching you win will show them where they've avoided growth. Watching you rise will remind them of every chance they wasted. Watching you expand will magnify every place they stayed small. Silence is easier than accountability, and your breakthrough demands both. The switching moment, the exact second destiny tilted toward your name, happened when you weren't looking, not because you were unprepared, but because blessings of this magnitude aren't delivered to people who cling to control. They're delivered to people who surrendered to becoming. You reached a stage where your suffering had taught you everything noise couldn't. You stopped begging for clarity and started becoming clarity. You stopped chasing opportunity and started attracting it. You stopped asking for permission and started embodying inevitability. That's when the switch flipped. That's when the favor turned. That's when the breakthrough loaded. Not when you were strong, when you were real. And now you're a storm they can't predict and a force they can't ignore. You're stepping into chapters that require a spine made from everything that once tried to break it. You're stepping into spaces where the old you would have second-guessed every step. But that version of you doesn't exist anymore. The breakthrough burned them away. The switch erased them. The rise buried them beneath layers of evolution you didn't even notice happening. Your next breakthrough is not just loud. It's inevitable. It's coded into your survival. It's embedded in your scars. It's written in the places where you refused to die. And when it hits, when the world feels the vibration of your name-changing altitude, silence will fall like ash. Haters will go quiet because they cannot comment on a version of you they never imagined. They cannot speak on a destiny they were never invited into. They cannot explain a switch they didn't see coming. And as their noise collapses, your clarity will rise. Your power will rise. Your access will rise. Your identity will rise. And this is where the story gets uncomfortable. Because the silence around you isn't just the absence of noise. It is the beginning of revelation. You see, silence exposes truth that noise used to drown out. People hid their envy behind chatter. They masked their insecurity with jokes. They disguised their obsession with criticism. But breakthrough has a way of stripping camouflage off human nature. And now that something has switched in your favor, their reactions are no longer protected by distraction. Watch closely. The quiet ones aren't always neutral. Some are quiet because they are calculating. Some are quiet because they are afraid. Some are quiet because your elevation forces them to confront the lie they told themselves about you. That you would never rise, never win, never evolve beyond the version they could control. They don't know what to do with you now. They don't know how to categorize you. They don't know where to place you in the hierarchy they built in their heads. Because your breakthrough didn't ask them for permission. It didn't wait for their acceptance. It didn't slow down for their comfort. This silence they're entering, it's thick, heavy, nervous. It's the kind of silence that shows up when people realize they misread the entire game. And they did. They miscalculated your endurance. They underestimated your resilience. They believed your wounds were disqualifications instead of prophecies. They thought your seasons of stagnation were proof you were finished. But stagnation is not death. In the spiritual world, stagnation is suspension, a pause before release, a gathering before liftoff, a stillness that isn't empty, it's loaded. And the moment that suspension ended, the moment the switch flipped, your name stopped behaving like a name and started behaving like a signal. This is what they were unprepared for. The way your energy changed before your circumstances did. Breakthrough always announces itself internally first. Your thoughts shifted. Your boundaries sharpened. Your tolerance for disrespect evaporated. Your old identity felt too small. Your spirit felt like it was pacing inside your chest, demanding more space, more breath, more room to expand. You didn't recognize it at first. It felt foreign, maybe even frightening. But that was the early tremor of the breakthrough forming, a spiritual earthquake in slow motion. And now, the aftershocks are starting to ripple outward. People can feel it before they see it. They may not say anything, but their bodies say everything. The way they look at you differently, the way they hesitate mid-sentence, the way their posture shifts whenever you enter a conversation, the way their compliments feel forced, the way their silence feels loaded. That's the atmosphere adjusting to your new frequency. That's the world trying to recalibrate around someone who refuses to shrink anymore. Understand this. When something switches in your favor, it switches against anything that was working against you. Destiny does not adjust quietly. It rearranges, it dismantles, it exposes, it forces people to reveal what they never wanted you to see. Not through confrontation, but through reaction. You don't have to test anyone. Their silence is the test. Their hesitation is the confession. Their discomfort is the truth. Some people will go quiet because they can't follow you into the next chapter. Not because they lack desire, but because they lack depth. Breakthrough doesn't just lift you. It filters your environment. It isolates you from the shallow, the insecure, the dependent, the jealous. Breakthroughs demand altitude, and altitude demands solitude. That's silence around you. It's a purging, not to punish you, but to protect what's coming. You can't carry dead weight into the future that's being constructed for you. You can't drag fragile egos into a destiny that requires steel. You can't accommodate people who crumble in the presence of your power. Your breakthrough is loud, but your spirit is louder. And that alone makes insecure people tremble. They didn't expect you to survive, let alone rise with this level of clarity. They didn't expect your silence to evolve into sovereignty. They didn't expect your resilience to calcify into authority. They didn't expect your scars to turn into strategies. They thought the pain would break you. They thought the losses would silence you. They thought the betrayals would paralyze you. What they didn't know is that the pain was building muscle. The losses were building vision. The betrayals were building discernment. While they laughed, you learned. While they doubted, you sharpened. While they dismissed you, you became dangerous. And now that the switch has flipped, everything is responding to you differently. Not because you changed externally, but because you changed energetically. You stepped out of survival mode and into alignment. You stepped out of fear and into embodiment. You stepped out of hesitation and into inevitability. People can sense inevitability. It unsettles them. It disarms them. It dissolves their illusions of superiority. That's why the silence is growing. Your breakthrough is dismantling their confidence in real time. But let's go deeper. A breakthrough like this doesn't just shift your environment, it shifts your identity. You're no longer moving as someone who hopes for change. You're moving as someone who causes change. You're carrying yourself like someone who knows exactly what they bring to the table, even if the table hasn't arrived yet. You're walking with a certainty that you didn't study your way into, you bled your way into. This is not arrogance. This is recognition, the recognition of your own magnitude. This is the moment where your old fears lose their authority, the moment where your past stops being a prison and becomes a reference point, the moment where your wounds stop echoing grief and start echoing prophecy, the moment where your quiet strength turns into a roar the world cannot mute. They will try to downplay you. They will try to ignore the signs. They will try to pretend they don't notice the shift. But silence betrays them. Silence always betrays truth. Do not misinterpret their stillness. It is not peace. It is not acceptance. It is not maturity. It is shock. It is recalibration. It is the dawning realization that the version of you they built their identity around no longer exists. Some people only knew how to feel tall next to your lowest self. But your lowest self is gone now. And without that reference point, they don't know who they are. That's why they're quiet. That's why they're distant. That's why they're strange. Your breakthrough erased the ladder they used to climb above you. Now pay close attention. When something switches in your favor, your opportunities change first, your relationships change second, and your environment changes last. The shift begins within, echoes around you, and then manifests before you. You're in the echo stage right now. The stage where everything feels almost unfamiliar. The stage where your spirit knows what your mind hasn't fully caught up to. Yet you are no longer who you were yesterday. And that identity shift is the precursor to the breakthrough's physical arrival. But this breakthrough is not gentle. It doesn't knock softly. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It tears down walls. It breaks patterns. It disrupts expectations. It places you in spaces you didn't audition for. It introduces you to opportunities you didn't chase. It illuminates parts of you that were dormant. It makes noise in places that once tried to silence you. It makes space where you were once suffocated. It ushers you into a chapter that feels like revenge wrapped in elevation. And the ones who underestimated you, they will feel this breakthrough before you do. Because people who doubted you are always the first to sense your transformation. They feel the shift in your energy because they've been monitoring you longer than you ever monitored yourself. They studied your struggles. They kept score of your failures. They memorized your weak points. And when destiny starts rewriting your story, their predictions crumble. That crumble is the silence you're hearing now. The quiet isn't accidental. It's the sound of people realizing their narrative no longer fits the reality forming around you. It's the sound of illusions snapping. It's the sound of identities collapsing. Because your breakthrough doesn't just affect you. It forces everyone who misread you to face themselves. And they won't like what they see. They're realizing that the version of you they mistreated was the most harmless version they ever had access to. They're realizing the version of you they dismissed was the last version that would have tolerated their disrespect. They're realizing the version of you they underestimated was the foundation of a much darker, much stronger, much louder force that's emerging now. Breakthroughs do not reveal your strength. They reveal the truth of others. And the truth is this: they needed you weak. They needed you confused. They needed you doubting yourself. Because as long as you were wounded, they could feel superior. As long as you were lost, they could feel stable. As long as you were silent, they could feel loud. But something switched, something tilted, something flipped in your spirit, and the balance of power shifted in ways they never anticipated. That's why the silence feels tense, because now you are the one watching them, not out of revenge, out of clarity, out of discernment, out of an elevated vantage point that exposes the smallness of their intentions. And nothing terrifies small spirits more than someone who no longer needs their validation to breathe. You've stepped out of their jurisdiction. You've stepped out of their reach. You've stepped out of the mental prison they once housed you in. And freedom like that, it radiates, it intimidates, it disorients. That's why they're quiet. They're trying to figure out how they lost control of a game they thought they were winning. But what they never understood is that you were never playing the same game as them. You were enduring while they were performing. You were rising while they were gossiping. You were healing while they were hoping you'd break again. They invested in your downfall because it made them feel tall. Now they're discovering that your rise makes their insecurities go bone deep. The silence around you is not peace. It's panic. It's the sound of people rearranging their assumptions before you expose them, simply by existing at your next level. Because that's the thing about a loud breakthrough. It exposes everything that was whispering against you. Some people will suddenly act supportive. Some will suddenly act curious. Some will suddenly act distant. Some will suddenly act loyal. None of it is sudden. Your breakthrough is forcing their masks to malfunction. Their behavior is not changing. You're just finally seeing how unstable their loyalty always was. Breakthrough doesn't create chaos. It reveals the chaos that was already there. And the shift that just occurred in your life is not a small shift. It is a dislodging, a spiritual plate movement, a silent earthquake under the foundations of your story. You may not have language for it yet, but your spirit knows. It's why you've been standing differently, thinking differently, feeling differently. It's why certain things that used to shake you no longer move you. It's why certain people who once felt essential now feel irrelevant. It's why certain opportunities that once excited you now seem too small, You outgrew a season you were still standing in. And the moment your spirit outgrows something, the world is forced to adjust. This breakthrough is not a blessing, it's a recalibration. It's life correcting everything that underestimated you. It's the universe shifting its weight toward your name. It's divine reversal disguised as opportunity. It's the kind of breakthrough that makes your past look foolish, forever believing it could contain you. That's what's flipping. That's what's switching. That's what's loading. And the silence around you is the atmosphere preparing for your emergence. People think breakthroughs are about doors opening. They're not. They're about identities unlocking. When that switch flipped in your favor, it didn't change your circumstances, it changed you. And once you change at the core, your reality has no choice but to obey. This is why alignment always precedes acceleration. The person you were yesterday could not have held the elevation coming tomorrow. The wiring had to be updated. The mindset had to be rewired. The spirit had to be fortified. You had to lose the version of you that tolerated the bare minimum, trusted blindly, forgave too quickly, and apologized for existing. That version was never going to survive the altitude of the life being unlocked. Altitude isn't just about rising, it's about thinning. The air gets thinner, the circle gets thinner, the excuses get thinner, the tolerance for disrespect gets thinner. Breakthroughs prune you before they promote you. That's why so many people disappeared. That's why certain relationships crumbled. That's why certain environments started rejecting you out of nowhere. You were being prepared for an elevation they wouldn't survive. They were optional. Your breakthrough is not. Let me tell you something they will never admit. They knew something was coming for you long before you did. People who envy you can sense your destiny earlier than you can. They saw the resilience in your eyes long before you recognized it as strength. They saw the fight in your spirit long before you understood it as purpose. They saw the glow under your exhaustion long before you believed it was potential. And that terrified them, not because they hated you, because they saw what you could become if you ever stopped doubting yourself. They felt the magnitude of your future even before you stepped into it. And they prayed, consciously or unconsciously, that you would never reach this point. So when the switch flipped, when the momentum shifted, when the breakthrough activated, their silence wasn't confusion, it was confirmation. Every fear they carried came true. And there's something you need to understand now. People who doubted you will not speak on your breakthrough. Their silence is not humility, it's self-preservation. They don't want to acknowledge your rise because it exposes their misjudgment. They don't want to acknowledge your shift because it invalidates their past behavior. They don't want to acknowledge your evolution because it forces them to confront their own stagnation. Your breakthrough is their mirror, and mirrors never lie. This is why the silence feels so thick. It's not empty. It's admissions they're too proud to say out loud. It's guilt they can't disguise. It's respect they don't want to give you. It's fear they hope you can't see. But you see it. You feel it. And you're not wrong for noticing it. Because this breakthrough is not just loud in impact. It's loud in truth. It brings clarity. It brings exposure, it brings separation, it brings consequence. And here's the part that changes everything. Your next breakthrough will not just silence haters. It will reposition you. It will relocate you. It will re-identify you. It will rewrite how the world interacts with you. People will approach you differently. Opportunities will present themselves differently. Obstacles will behave differently. Even your intuition will speak differently. Because this is not the rise of the old you, it's the debut of the rightful you. And when this breakthrough arrives, it won't knock. It will announce itself. It will drag your name into rooms it was never supposed to enter. It will pull you into seasons you once believed were reserved for others. It will decorate your path with blessings that confuse your enemies and confirm your calling. And as all of this unfolds, the silence around you will deepen. Not emptiness, awe. Not distance, recognition. Not avoidance, fear. Because they thought the quiet you was harmless. They didn't know the quiet you was evolving. They thought the patient you was weak. They didn't know the patient you was strategic. They thought the delayed you was denied. They didn't know the delayed you was being rebuilt. Now they know, and the silence tells the story. But we're not done, because what comes next, what this breakthrough unlocks, what this shift triggers, is bigger than silence. Its consequence, reversal, recognition, and the kind of elevation they cannot recover from. And as all of this unfolds, the silence around you will deepen. Because they thought the quiet you was harmless. They didn't know the quiet you was evolving. They thought the patient you was weak. They didn't know the patient you was strategic. They thought the delayed you was denied. They didn't know the delayed you was being rebuilt. Now they know, and the silence tells the story. But we're not done, because what comes next, what this breakthrough unlocks, what this shift triggers, is bigger than silence. Its consequence, reversal, recognition, and the kind of elevation they cannot recover from. And that's where the real panic begins. You see, silence is only the first symptom, the warming up phase, the pre-shock tremor before their mental ground cracks straight down the middle. But breakthrough, real breakthrough, it doesn't stop at silence. It goes further. It takes inventory. It repositions the furniture inside their ego. It rearranges entire social dynamics without asking anyone for consent. And the best part, nobody warned them. That's the dark humor of destiny. It moves like a thief, but exposes like a judge. Your haters thought they had time to prepare for your comeback. They thought they'd get a rumor first, a sign, an omen, a whisper. Maybe a little spiritual buffering period, a chance to rehearse their shock, a chance to practice their fake smile, a chance to adjust their jealousy into socially acceptable envy. But the universe didn't notify them. No memo, no email, no subtle, energetic heads up. Just boom. You shifted. Their reality collapsed. And now they're sitting in the rubble of their predictions, trying to figure out how you slipped out of the storyline they wrote for you. And this is where the comedy kicks in. Watching people pretend they're unbothered while their entire nervous system is malfunctioning like a broken fire alarm. Their eyes say, "How did this happen?" Their posture says, "Who gave them permission?" Their silence says, "Why didn't anyone warn us?" But the universe doesn't warn people who bet on your downfall. It just lets them drown in their own certainty. Your breakthrough is poetic justice wearing combat boots. And as it lands, watch how quickly people start rewriting history. Suddenly, the ones who doubted you always saw potential. Suddenly, the ones who avoided you were giving you space to grow. Suddenly, the ones who laughed behind your back were just joking. Suddenly, the ones who ghosted you were healing. Breakthrough exposes reality the way fire exposes the shape of metal. And the shape of some of these people, bent, twisted, fragile, not built for your elevation. Never were. But let's go deeper. Because you need to understand what's really happening here. Your breakthrough isn't punishing them. It's revealing them. You're not rising to spite them. You're rising to replace the version of you they were comfortable with. Because breakthrough doesn't just reward you. It demands an upgrade, an identity swap, a shedding. This version of you, the one stepping into consequence and reversal and recognition, they don't know how to handle this one. They don't know how to manipulate this one. They don't know how to guilt this one. They don't know how to decode this one. Because you, now, you walk with a silence that hits harder than your old explanations ever did. You move with a calm that feels like a threat. You speak less, but say more. You give nothing, yet take everything that's yours. Your presence has turned into a psychological event, a disturbance, a glitch in their comfort, a mirror they never asked for. And the moment they sensed your shift, their minds flipped into self-preservation mode. Some started acting overly kind, some overly distant, some overly curious, some overly silent. That's what happens when a breakthrough exposes the architecture of someone's intentions. They malfunction, not because of you, but because of who they were pretending to be. And oh, the irony. Your haters who used to talk loudly can't form a complete sentence now. Your doubters who used to feel taller than you suddenly feel 2 inches tall. Your competitors who used to outrun you now jog in slow motion, pretending they're just taking things easy. But you and I both know the truth. Your breakthrough stole their confidence like a thief in broad daylight. And that's the part no one can warn them about. Your rise doesn't just elevate you. It exposes their stagnation. Now watch what happens next. Watch how the silence deepens into discomfort. Watch how the discomfort turns into reflection. Watch how the reflection becomes regret. Watch how regret metastasizes into envy. And then watch how envy grows into fear. Why fear? Because your breakthrough broke their illusion that you needed them, that you were behind them, that you were predictable, that you were safe. Nothing triggers fear like an unpredictable transformation. They can handle you growing slowly. They can handle you improving quietly. But a sudden elevation, a silent switch, a rise with no explanation, that terrifies them. Because people can only compete with what they can understand. They can only hate what they believe they can outrun. But you slipped past them without announcing your acceleration. You outgrew the race they thought they were winning. You transcended their category entirely. That's the kind of breakthrough nobody recovers from. And you want to know what's coming next? The real consequence. The one destiny sends with a smirk? Recognition, not the shallow kind, not the social kind, not the temporary kind. I'm talking about recognition that forces people to rewrite their worldview, recognition that reprograms the narrative, recognition that burns their old assumptions to ash. Every room you walk into, the energy shifts before you speak, not because you're louder, but because you're inevitable, because your breakthrough announces you the way thunder announces lightning, delayed but unmistakable. They finally see you not as who you were, but as who you were always becoming. And here comes the most delicious, darkly humorous part. People will start treating your presence like a risk factor. Not an asset, not an inspiration, a risk. Your glow threatens their shadows. Your elevation threatens their excuses. Your clarity threatens their manipulation. Your evolution threatens their stagnation. This is the part where their silence becomes strategy. They'll pretend not to notice you. They'll pretend not to be impressed. They'll pretend your breakthrough is nothing special. Meanwhile, their spirit is pacing the floor like an anxious security guard, who knows something dangerous just entered the building, because something did. You, but not the old you, not the doubting you, not the timid you, not the wounded you, the upgraded you, the rewritten you, the resurrected you, the you that the old world can't hold and the new world isn't ready for. And that's where this story is about to take its sharpest turn. Because breakthrough isn't the finale. Breakthrough is the ignition, and everything that happens after ignition is consequence wrapped in destiny. That's the part no one prepares you for. The part that tastes like justice but feels like disruption. The part where life stops asking you what you want and starts showing you who you are. The part where the people who once spoke over you suddenly fumble for words, and the ones who treated you like a background character start realizing you were the plot twist the whole time. Your breakthrough is loud, yes, but what comes after it? That is seismic. Because as destiny ignites, it doesn't just move you forward, it drags everything else into alignment, willingly or unwillingly. And alignment? Oh, alignment is violent. It pulls you where you're meant to be and pushes everything that can't survive your new frequency out of your orbit. People who once felt close will suddenly feel far. People who once felt important will suddenly feel irrelevant. People who once felt superior will suddenly feel like cautionary tales. And the beauty of it, you don't have to lift a finger. When something switches in your favor, the universe handles the sanitation process on your behalf. Watch how it removes people who dimmed you. Watch how it exposes people who doubted you. Watch how it drains the energy of people who fed off your insecurity. Watch how it shrinks the influence of those who once overshadowed you. This is not coincidence. This is consequence. The kind of consequence that comes with a smirk. The kind destiny delivers with dark humor like, remember when they counted you out? Let's count them out next. And the more you rise, the more the silence evolves. It becomes tighter, sharper, more revealing. You'll notice it in rooms where your name used to be an afterthought. Now it's a warning. You'll notice it in people who once underestimated your potential. Now they're intimidated by your presence. You'll notice it in the whispers, whispers that stop when you walk in. Not because they respect you, but because they can't risk being wrong about you again. Your breakthrough isn't just loud. It's dangerous to anyone who built their confidence on your containment. And here's the chaotic part. People who used to avoid you will now avoid talking about you. People who used to laugh at you will now avoid laughing around you. People who used to think they were above you will now pretend they were always beside you. The air tells the truth before their mouths ever will. You'll feel the shift before you see it. You'll feel how their energy bends itself just to disguise the fact that they misjudged you. Some will try to re-enter your life with soft tones and strategic smiles. Some will send innocent messages dripping in guilty intention. Some will play dumb like they never doubted you. Some will act supportive like they didn't ignore you when support mattered. But you, now, you're sharper than their performance. Your discernment has grown teeth. Your intuition has stopped whispering and started announcing. Breakthrough rewires the way you interpret people. It burns the fog. It eliminates the benefit of the doubt. It lets you see motives the way surgeons see anatomy. Clean, exposed, impossible to deny. And as this clarity grows, something else rises with it. Recognition. Not just external, but internal. For the first time in your life, you'll see your own magnitude without flinching. You'll feel the weight of your own destiny without apologizing. You'll walk without shrinking, speak without trembling, move without second-guessing. Your confidence won't be loud. It will be surgical, calculated, predatory in its calmness, the kind of confidence that makes insecure people uncomfortable because it doesn't need an audience. And that's where the final phase unfolds, the one destiny saves for the chosen differently. Reversal. Every assumption they made about you, reversed. Every loss they celebrated, reversed. Every door they thought would stay shut on you, reversed. Every narrative they wrote about your limitation, reversed. Not metaphorically, literally. That's the dark humor of breakthrough. It flips the script so violently that even destiny has to smother a grin. The ones who thought you'd stay behind will watch you walk past them with quiet steps and loud consequence. The ones who thought they buried you will realize you were planted in their blind spot. The ones who thought you needed them will quickly understand that they were just the practice field for the person you were becoming. Your breakthrough has no intention of uplifting them. It has every intention of unveiling them. And once unveiled, they crumble in slow motion. Not because you wish them harm, but because exposure is its own punishment. And still, this story isn't done. Because the loudest part of your breakthrough is not the silence it creates. It's the shift, the atmospheric shift, the reputational shift, the spiritual shift, the psychological shift in the people who underestimated you. You are now the disruption, the anomaly, the one they can't explain, the one they can't predict, the one they can't access, the one they can't dismiss anymore. Your name becomes a voltage. Your presence becomes a disturbance. Your path becomes a warning. And here's where destiny leans in with its final punchline, the kind with teeth. They thought your breakthrough would make noise. They didn't know it would make history. Because this shift, this sudden, violent, cosmic switch in your favor, it doesn't fade, it doesn't plateau, it doesn't stop at elevation. It escalates, it compounds, it multiplies. Your enemies will scroll past your progress like it doesn't bother them. Meanwhile, their chest tightens. Your old circles will act indifferent. Meanwhile, their silence is them choking on their regrets. Your doubters will pretend your rise is expected. Meanwhile, destiny is dragging their arrogance by the throat. Your breakthrough is loud, but the consequences are louder. And the final truth: they will never recover from underestimating you. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually, because some mistakes follow people forever, and misjudging someone chosen is one of them. And you're not stepping into a new chapter. You are stepping into a new dimension, one they cannot enter, one they cannot decode, one they cannot sabotage, a dimension where silence becomes respect, envy becomes motivation, and your existence becomes a message. Something switched in my favor, and no one warned you. That is your breakthrough. That is your ignition. That is your aftermath. And from here on out, every step you take will sound like a door closing behind you, one they will never open again.